All right, looks like everything's going well here. I'm Fletch, Joshua Fletcher from OMG. Just going to do a quick sound check over this thing. That's the reason I don't host it in here. So I am assuming that the broadcast is going fine. I'm going to open up a new browser here real quick just to make sure. And then we'll get going. Oh, dang it. We'll hold up. Go here. Bottom, here. Alright, I'm just browsing around in the background here. Broadcast is going fine. Open up the browser here real quick. Okay, so that's all good. I'm going to turn my Bluetooth speaker off and then do a screen share here real quick. Over to this. There we go. So we should be good now. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with Firefox. It has been crashing a lot lately, so I host this in Safari and Chrome. Looks like everything's going fine with Chrome. So, yeah, it looks like 12 signed into the chat box, another 10 or so on the site. For anybody who is on the site but not logged into the chat box yet, just go ahead and log into the chat box by entering your name in that top box there, and then you can type your questions in the chat box, and that's how we kind of handle the back and forth, Q&A style part of these office hours. So, for those of you who are new to OMG, welcome. Anybody who is entrenched and churning along, I'm glad you're on. But the way we handle these is typically kind of anything goes. You can ask questions about technical SEO stuff, about money getting, about monetization, competition, analysis, how to access the information that we have in OMG, any of that kind of stuff. So pretty much anything fair game, and depending on how the sessions go, we either kind of just do Q&A the whole time, or I get involved with some demonstration type things. Just depends on the nature of the folks that we have on, depending on the day. So anyway, I usually tend to let the questions fill up a little bit and rant and rave and talk about things for a while before we get some good stuff flowing through that I can address. Okay, those are last session. I also tend to set these up in a style that you'll be able to access later, either through video or audibly. So what I do is typically read the question back and then give my response, whether that's an answer or my thoughts on things. So, all right, Brian's on, all good. We got Chuck on the day. Hi, Fletch. Do you meet with clients in person before starting their campaigns? So, Chuck, yeah, when I'm working with an SEO client, yes, I do. I typically will come in and put together some kind of I won't say a formal presentation, but I will do some background work on their industry, the competition, the keyword volume, kind of market research, to give them some value before I talk about selling them on any kind of a solution that I would offer. So that's with people that I am intending to sell on some kind of a monthly SEO contract. But honestly, I think you probably know, you've been on quite a few times. Most of my sites are monetized through a pay-per-lead structure. With pay-per-leads, I'm getting away from the consulting model, which means I don't offer as much really customization or upfront, kind of meeting and divulging exactly what we're going to do. What I typically do is sell leads in industries based on keywords They're not necessarily driven by a certain keyword, because what I found is that it just becomes a sticking point a lot of times. So what I typically do will just be sell leads, and people can buy those on a couple different websites that I have set up for specific industries. And in that situation, what they're able to just hit a buy now button and buy blocks of leads that will auto bill if they choose to auto bill. So I actually approach different types of contracts and different types of clients differently. If it's a month-to-month SEO deal, yeah, I usually have a sit down. I essentially ask what they need, and then we'll either kind of produce what we need to talk about on the spot, or we'll come back and reschedule later, kind of based on that. But with pay-per-lead stuff, I'm trying to actually generate and create a model that's more customer-based, which means it's based on a transaction for more of a commodity, and I'm able to scale better that way. I still keep my customers pretty happy. I mean, I don't have to spend as much face time with them. They still have access if they need something, but it just streamlines the client acquisition process. All right, Dan asks, hey Fletch, you're using Social Explosion on all summer, none of your PBNs. If so, what are you seeing DAPA stick or improve? So one of the things, Dan, with that is the actual tracking of DA and PA. As you probably know, once you get up to a certain number of sites, logging in, checking those numbers, and then also logging and tracking those numbers becomes kind of a hassle. I'm actually kind of working on some processes that will track that stuff automatically. At the moment, I do have Social Explosion running, but I haven't done a great job of tracking all my sites and continuing to keep track of the stats, PA and DA stats. One of the reasons is that Open Site Explorer and the company behind it are third party to Google. So right now it appears that what they're tracking and what Google is tracking is very similar, but at the same time Google does not base their stats on domain authority. They base their stats on their own algorithm. And their own algorithm may or may not take into account, Rand Fiskin's model for domain authority and page authority. So those are numbers that are come up. They're created by a third party. They do seem to have a very close effect on rankings in Google, and so we pay a lot of attention to it. But I don't necessarily. I don't base everything on that. So yeah, I have Social Explosion running, but I don't do a great job of tracking it. I may do a better job in the future if I can figure out some ways to automate that process, but right now I like it, I use it, but I don't track DAPA improvement. DA and PA also are only updated periodically. From my experience, maybe every month, 6 weeks, something like that. And because of that, the feedback loop is pretty long. So, really figuring out exactly what's going on momentarily with domain authority and page authority becomes, kind of a moot point. So that's my thought on that. All right, Ken, hey Fletch, I'm working on my first local lead gen site that I'd like to rent out to a local business. Do you have a good example that I could use as a guide? Yeah, the two that I've shared with the group, Ken, so far are milehighplumbing.net and then my spinaldecompressionphoenix.org site. Those are the two that I essentially kind of shared with the group in the videos that I've shot for the local Legion stuff that I've shared with OMG. One of them is really set up very much along the same lines as I would set up a local Legion site. I don't currently have Mile High Plumbing monetized. It's more of a demonstration of the silo architecture that I use for local Legion stuff. The other site, Spinal Decompression, is monetized. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with it right now, but for the first year or so, I had the site set up to generate money based on calls, and did fine with it. I did well, but I've actually kind of shared that site with so many folks in the group that the metrics on it are a little bit off, and I've also let my buddy who actually went through the spinal decompression go about monetizing that however he chooses. So I will, let me think here. I've got a demo site that's going to be part of the next kind of continuation of my model for local lead gen stuff. It's really how I make almost all my money in SEO. So because of that, David's been talking to me about releasing a bigger module that describes the ins and outs of it in a lot more detail, and there'll be some sites in there that are probably demonstrate what I do with local lead gen better than those two sites that I've shared thus far. But at the moment, those are the two that I could point you to that will give you a good idea of what the look and feels like, the size, how I deal with keywords and address that, and things along those lines. All right, Brian, how do you check on your YouTube videos ranking? Is it tilt? Is the time delay still around a month? Is there a point when you should throw in another Fiverr gig, send more links? Okay, so Brian, I do a lot with GSA and YouTube. I just had 3 new videos pop this week that took maybe 2.5 weeks to hit the SERPs, and when I say hit the SERPs, they're on the second page, so they're like in the teens, give or take, ranking wise. They were videos that were created somewhere around a month ago, and I started GSA campaigns to them about 2.5 weeks ago. So that's kind of the lag time I'm seeing currently. I don't know Fiverr currently. They were things I used maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. But recently I've only been using GSA that I run to my Web 2.0 properties. That includes YouTube. So I would assume they're about the same. And yeah, if you don't get the movement that you want initially, you just kind of keep the links on. From my understanding, I really haven't had that problem, but that's latest word from Jimmy Kelly that I have heard. So he is typically the go-to guy for GSA that we have in the group, and I learned most of what I know about GSA from him. So Cotton on board today. I'm glad that you jumped on. Yeah, it. Well, what was I going to say about? Yeah, the Fiverr gigs. I don't know. I tend to try to keep my lists as clean as I can, and because of that, I didn't want to go with as uncontrolled a source as Fiverr could potentially be. Fiverr's really commoditized. You get kind of what you pay for type of thing. So I just have GScraper running on a virtual private server, and GSA running on a dedicated server, and that's usually how I handle my link building to all the high domain authority sites that I'm trying to rank. All right, Nancy C., what are your thoughts on having a branded website then break down by profession and product? And by city and keyword, would it be best to do one? Oh, let me highlight this. Would it be best to do one brand to specialty, or one brand and then multiple professions and products? Or is site per keyword, profession, location? So I do have a lot of branded kind of partial match domain sites set up. Some of those are original URLs and domains that I registered. Others are expired domains that happen to have a keyword I wanted to go after in the domain name. What I typically do with those, or have been doing up to this point, is to silo them much along the lines of what I've done with Mile High Plumbing, and that typically works pretty well when you are trying to go after something with a geographic base that's more than one city. I don't typically try to promote more than one really industry or service or profession on the same site. I'm not saying you can't, but most of my site, well, all my sites thus far, are set up based around a central concept. Even if it's not one specific service, it can kind of rotate around a keyword that's more specific than just home services. So if you were trying to set up a website that ranked for all home services, you could probably do that, but you would probably have to make use of a great deal of content and links. So the more general you make your website, the more you're going to have to probably hit it with specific kind of themed out PBN links that are going to help Google understand what your site is about, because your website in general will be about a lot of things. And so what I typically try to do is make things as simple on Google as I can by keeping the niches and the topics of my website fairly specific, while building up as much page authority and domain authority as I can. So I typically don't go really general or broad with my keyword targeting for each specific site, if that makes sense. All right, Ken, how are you able to launch any low competition lead gen sites without PBNs? Yes, Ken, I am. I do that with some of the concepts that I've taken from Jimmy Kelly. Everything that we do works, and it works well, but I've also tried to kind of assimilate some concepts that follow what we teach in OMG but may make use of different strategies. And Jimmy Kelly's domain authority stacking is very much in line with what we do with our PBNs, but it just may or may not require the PBN to do it. So with some of the low competition stuff I have locally, I am making use of domain authority stacking concepts that Jimmy Kelly shared in his course. I won't share those here just because it's some of his proprietary stuff that I paid for that he charges for, so I don't want to undermine his contribution to the SEO world. But yeah, and the thing is, like, that's one of the reasons I've shared the spinaldecompressionphoenix.org website with everybody. That site does not make use of anything other than Google authorship, which doesn't show in the SERPs anymore, but it still sits there. So it's got a Google Plus website connected to it. It's got a few shares on Facebook and Twitter. It has no PBN links. It doesn't make use of Social Explosion or vCracken or anything like that. It's just about a 15-page website that ranks #1 for 5 keywords and generates 6 or 8 calls a month based on a $3,000 service that chiropractors provide. So I wanted to put that out there just because, and I talk about this a lot in the Facebook group, SEO is a competition. If you're looking at ranking, OMG teaches us the rules, and we start to understand what we need to do with anchor text, with domain authority always helping, with what we're doing on page, everything else like that. But regardless of the rules, you can still beat your competition if they are not following any of the rules without doing anything very complicated. So it just really depends on the niche, the market, the industry that you're in, how much competition there is for certain keywords. And then within those keywords, how much of a blanket or umbrella effect that gives to more specific keywords. So if you were ranking #1 for a very general keyword like plumbing in a city, does that automatically mean you're going to rank for more specific buyer keywords in that industry? No. It still leaves the door open for a lot of more specific buyer keywords that are what I base a lot of my lead gen on. So I rarely go after the bigger terms initially. I do go after them long term, but initially to get the phone ringing and to I guess start the flow of leads quicker, I start with lower competition, more specific buyer intent keywords, and we'll build out pages and even potentially sites based on those specific keywords. The spinal decompression site is a great example of that. It is a single service that chiropractors add. It doesn't rank anything for chiropractors as far as I know, but it does generate $20,000, $25,000 worth of revenue a month for the chiropractor that I was sending leads to last year. So that's kind of how I address that or approach it. And I still do that. Like I said, it's going to be described in more detail in the videos I have coming out, but in a nutshell, that's kind of what I'm doing there. So So that was that and that. All right, Nancy C, great, thanks. Oh, yep. Okay, I don't think I missed anything here. Let me scroll back down. See what I got going on. Yeah, this is actually a really good question with the social explosion. Some of the automated tools are things that I've put in place, and they have seemed to create quite a bit more traffic on my sites. It seems that I rank for more, a lot of the terms that don't get a lot of search volume because of potential social signals or things like that. So I'm pretty impressed with it so far, and we'll continue to roll it out on my sites. Yeah, that's good. YouTube. Yeah, so I think I talked about this. So SERP Book is the ranking software that I use for videos. I, for the most part, use Microsite Masters for all my websites, but for specific URLs that I want to track, SERP Book seems to be a better way of doing that. So when I talk about specific URLs with a YouTube video, it's on youtube.com domain. Microsite Masters does a great job of tracking your first, the first time you show up in the SERPs per domain, but not a great job with URLs. So I use YouTube to track all my Web 2s that I'm trying to rank, whether it's a social platform like YouTube or like a blog site or whatever. So that's what I would use there. Yeah, Cotton. Yeah, that was the one I talked about. So yeah, then that comes down, Nancy. I think I did a good job describing what the structure, the website structure would be, but it's really driven by how you define your site and how many resources you're willing to put into it. So the more specific you can keep your focus, the easier time you're going to rank, but it's going to be a narrow keyword target. If you've got a lot of resources you're willing to throw at something, you can widen that target and get more traffic long term, but you're going to probably have to put more resources into it. So it just kind of depends. All right. All right, Ken, thanks. Not sure if you covered this before, but is all the content original on milehighplumbing.net? No, none of it is, Ken. A good question. All of that content was gathered or scraped with vKraken. So what I did was go through and define the, I guess, the keywords that I wanted to go after on Mile High Plumbing. It was kind of a quick and dirty research that I did. What I did was go find several plumbing sites who were in the Denver market that had on one or two of their pages kind of a list of services that they provide. And I just essentially grabbed all those service keywords and then stuck them in a text document and amended each of the services with the city name. So I would have, Denver drain cleaning. I would also have Aurora drain cleaning. I would also have Arvada drain cleaning. So each of the silos have one term that's different, and that's the geographic modifier on Mile High Plumbing. So each of the silos essentially have the same number of inner pages, but have a different city attached to each of those pages. And currently they're all still ranking really well. Traffic continues to improve and increase. I don't seem to be having any problem, but all of the videos and content and descriptions are things that vKraken went out to YouTube and scraped based on the silo architecture that I defined within that plugin. So that has no original content on it at all. All right, Nancy C., if going into a new area, how do you find out what the lower competition keywords are? Using TLKT, would those be the less searched terms there? Or where would you find? Okay, so Nancy, some of that is a little bit of experience. The keyword research tools that are on the market currently, and any that I could really foresee coming out anytime soon, are going to be based on a search engine that may or may not have in its best interest giving you the full details of search volume. So TLKT still uses Google to gather the search volume for the keywords, and then from there we'll define what else it does, which helps build out the terms that are connected to or associated with the main search query that you put into TLKT. So if you put in plumber, what it would do is go to the Google Keyword Planner tool and use plumber as the keyword, the seed keyword, and get the traffic volume there, and then go use plumber in the Google search engine to see what pages or results Google returned in the SERPs for that keyword, and then go into each of those pages and find related terms, and then go back in with each of those terms, query the Google Keyword Planner tool, and get the traffic volume, keyword, cost per click, all that kind of thing. So even though TLKT does a better job of building out related terms than any of the other software that I've seen or used, it is still triggered by and connected to the Google Keyword Planner tool. Aside from that, what I use in a lot of the websites I build out is just industry experience, or I spend more time going after keywords or researching keywords than people who just want to rely on the Keyword Planner tool. So I will go on industry websites and see what popular terms are being talked about. News articles are a great way to figure out kind of up-and-coming technologies or services or approaches in industries. But each of those is going to be kind of, you get better at it as you do it more. The Keyword Planner tool, and specifically TLKT, is enough to get started. You're not going to go too far astray using those technologies, but there are other ways to supplement it, and especially with the local keywords that I go after, Google does not do a great job of reporting what the traffic volume is on local search terms. I'll give Google the benefit of the doubt and say that it's because they have IPs that will trigger local results, and it doesn't necessarily come down to whether somebody typed the city in the search box. It can be directed from somebody typing the city in the search box, or having a local IP address connected to a term that's going to trigger a local result in the SERPs. But because of that, what I do, I just made a post in the Facebook group about this probably 2 hours ago, and what I do is I use the search volume for local keywords combined with using those same keywords without the local modifier, and then essentially kind of figure out the percentage of the population that I want to target with whatever keyword strategy I'm employing, and then I just adjust it that way. So again, with plumbing, if I am looking at plumbing in Houston, Houston's got 5 million people in it, the United States has 300,000 people in it, I'm looking at about 1.2% of the total search volume for plumber in the United States. So if the keyword plumber gets 100,000 searches per month, I'm looking at around 1,200 searches per month for plumber in Houston. Now, if you look at plumber in Houston, you're going to get different results for that search term. And what I do is just try to reconcile the data as best I can. Like I said, I don't have a better source than the Google Keyword Planner tool, but I also take it with a grain of salt because it's not 100% accurate. It's still the best thing to base our projections and targeting off of that I've found, unless you have a lot of keyword experience in industries. which I make use of as well within construction and home improvement stuff. All right. All right, Brian, thanks, Fletch. To add to the TLKT question, can you cross-reference keywords with TLKT? Not sure exactly what you mean by cross-reference, but yeah, you can use TLKT to build out, you know, the entirety of a market. They have, by they I mean Network Empire, ThemeZoom folks, have another software called Kraken, not vKraken. It's a totally different deal. What Kraken does is you put your seed keyword into it, and it will go through and automatically build out your relevant landing pages and top silo pages and inner pages for determining all of your silo architecture. They can do that automatically with the Kraken software or service, or what, I'm not sure exactly what they call it. But with TLKT, what I do typically is put a keyword in that I think my industry is about, let it run, come back to it, and then start drilling down within each of those results and start defining what my site's going to be about. I start grouping, you know, maybe several keywords onto each of the pages, the silo landing pages I'm going to build. And then below that, what I do is try to just get generic terms that may not have local results at all, and use those with the geographic modifiers for the inner pages on each of those silos. So, you know, a typical lead gen site that I build now may have 4 or 5 silos. Each of those silos may have, you know, 8 to 15 potential inner pages. Most of the inner pages are the same across each silo, but again, we'll have a different geographic modifier, and those seem to be, you know, just fine with Google at the moment. It lets me use vKraken for some of the content, which is okay to start with, but for the bigger search terms, I try to get my own content on there, at least to supplement each of those pages as quickly as possible. It doesn't seem to be a long-term problem with de-indexing or anything like that, but it just doesn't always convert that well. And with a money site that I'm building out, I need it to generate calls or data form submissions. And, you know, getting indexed is a first concern. Next is ranking. After that, I worry about conversion. That's kind of my process on each of those the lead gen sites that I make. Also, guys, I just noticed here that I kind of copy and paste the content for each of these pages because, you know, I run these rather frequently. Some of this information is incorrect, so don't take this stuff for to be accurate at the moment. I overlooked this when I copied and pasted. Currently, my office hours, and for that matter, the office hours of anybody in the group, the best place to find that information is in your membership area. It will be on the newsfeed. David Mills creates that. So we all correspond with David, and he gets that information updated. I usually try to keep this pretty accurate, but this is not. So don't assume I have an office hours coming up on Saturday. I do not. My next office hours is the Saturday following that. So. Yeah, all right. So Brian's got a little more specific definition on the question he had about cross-referencing. So yeah, with the cross-reference, I meant adding in the local modifiers, but many people search without the local modifiers. For instance, in Phoenix, someone would search for lawyer, not necessarily lawyer Phoenix. Yeah, so there will be some different results in the SERPs that will be driven by whether somebody types in Phoenix or not. So the results for somebody who searches for lawyer in Phoenix, being in Phoenix without putting Phoenix in the search box, or somebody who types in lawyer in Phoenix as a 3-word term, the SERPs are going to be different on that, but both of them will trigger local results. And thus far, I've not seen a keyword planner tool of any sort that addresses that. So like I said, what I typically do is I will do a keyword exploration on the search term plus the city and see what TLKT or Google is telling me for, you know, adding in the local modifier. But then I'll also do just a generic keyword search, so like lawyer, and see what it kicks back, and then adjust that down based on the percentage of the market, the percentage of the population of the market I want to serve is. So currently I don't know of any reliable ways to look at both of those at the same time. It just takes a little bit more work from what I currently do. All right, Brian, in this case, does that mean we can optimize for lawyer and then make the site as local as possible? Yeah, I guess. I'm trying to think about what that would look like here, Brian. So if you had a branded keyword domain, so law offices of Fletcher and Fletcher, it can be a great domain name. And you know, if you're talking about making the site as local as possible, your inner pages can make reference to the cities you serve. Your on-page content can make use of the cities you serve. And then also very, very relevant are the anchor text and the themes of the sites that are linking to your website. So you can have a pretty generic website that really doesn't talk about locations that much and get it to rank locally based on your anchor text. But again, that's why it comes down to competition. You may or may not win with that strategy. If other people are doing a better job at being more specific than you are, you're still not going to rank as well. It doesn't mean it won't work. It still can work. But it really comes down to looking at the competition. And analyzing the competition is one of the pieces that I really kind of harp on with the people that are, you know, kind of just starting out and trying to understand, well, can I do this? Can I do that? It depends. You know, it depends on what other people in that keyword segment are doing and if you want to beat them. Like I said, OMG teaches us the rules. It still depends on whether the competition is paying attention to those rules or not, how closely we have to adhere to those rules to win. So, you know, the site you're describing here is not as specific as it could be, so you leave the door open for somebody to come in and be more specific and better than you. But it doesn't mean it won't work. I'll put it that way. All right, Crystal, just listening as I work away. Awesome. Glad you're on, Crystal. All right, Nancy C., how do you implement CPA on your websites? So one of the things I commented on the Facebook group, again earlier today, was that I've kind of started doing with my local lead gen sites some hybrid monetization plans. And by hybrid, I mean for whatever reason, I build a local lead gen site that's supposed to be local. It's supposed to only cater to maybe a certain metro area, but it winds up getting a lot of nationwide traffic. Some of the inner pages may be the only pages that really address certain topics. And what I've done in those cases is went out and tried to find supplemental monetization for them. Now, whether that's a CPA offer that is willing to take a lead nationwide, or with the contractor websites I have, what I've done in certain cases was find physical products that I can actually sell on the website. So, I've got an inner page on a local contractor website in Phoenix that sells about $3,000 worth of goods on Amazon every week, which, you've got 4%, commission rate, but $2,000-3,000 worth of sales a month, it still generates some good supplemental income. So you really just have to think about it and see what's appropriate to the traffic that you're getting, as far as what you can do to supplement CPA and or hard product offers on local lead gen or even SEO sites that you're building for local customers. As far as just starting out with CPA, I'll say I lucked out just because I don't know any better, but I have a feeling it happens more often than I realize, which is building a site that ranks well for a term. If you've got specific CPA offers in your industry, you will likely wind up getting contacted by somebody who wants you to monetize your site with their offer. That's how, well, some of the bread and butter in my income, in my portfolio, is based on just that. I built a bunch of websites. They all ranked well for search terms that happened to be things the CPA company wanted to generate leads through. And I essentially just drop my CPA or their CPA offer on my websites, and I get paid for it. Aside from that, there are a couple kind of CPA clearinghouses that have a lot of different CPA products and offers and networks available that you can sign up on, Offer Vault, things like that. AFPay or AFPaying are two different ways to find CPA offers that you can promote, and it really just depends on the offer. There are different ways to monetize. Some are going to pay you based on the number of people that see your page, see the offer that they're trying to get out there. Some are going to be based or triggered on someone filling out a data submission form. That's CPA, that's cost per action. CPM is going to be based on 1,000 people seeing your offer. And then there's CP something else, and it's essentially just based on traffic. So you can actually monetize a site that will pay you based on the number of people that just click on a ad, and that traffic goes to a different site. The CPA networks that I know of, AppPaying and most of those work with all three types of monetization for those types of things. And then depending on what it is, they're going to have banner ads for you or affiliate links that you can put into your links. So your code, your href code. So, all right, we've got Graham on from New Zealand. Welcome, Graham. Yeah, I was out in, well, I guess it's its own country, but it used New Zealand dollars when I was in French Polynesia earlier this year. We were in Rarotonga, which was pretty fun. So I've got some New Zealand money sitting on my, actually on my desk. I need to put it away. All right, anyway, Brian, excellent. Can you do an in-depth example of analyzing competition, getting a game plan on how to get ahead of them and pricing it out? Yes. So I'm trying to think. I wish there was a better way for me to keep track of all the topics we cover, because I've done this a few times on the office hours. Doesn't mean I can't repeatedly do it. But what I might do here is wait for kind of the question volume to either thin out or cease, Brian, and then I can either get into it here, or I've got videos that are part of the kind of pay-per-lead model and that whole module that I've got coming out. More than happy to do it. Essentially, what it comes down to is using what Greg teaches us about looking at expired domains and what we use expired domains for, as far as creating high domain authority links with good anchor text that point back to our sites. And I essentially just reverse engineer what the top 3 or 4 people in each keyword group are doing. So if I wanted to look for Phoenix plumbers, I'd type in Phoenix plumbers. I'd see the top 3 or 4 websites. I'd drop each of those websites into OpenSite Explorer. I'd explore their links. I'd look at their domain authority. I would look at the links pointing to them through, good grief, I can't think of it. Hrefs, which will give you even more keyword information, and then just kind of go from there. That'll give you an idea of how powerful the sites are that you're competing against. And one of the things that scares people away are high domain authority sites ranking for a lot of local keywords. Google does this because it has to have somebody win. And with a lot of local keywords, there isn't anybody really going after them well. And so then by default, what it will do is just rank the high domain authority site. Even if the high domain authority site does not really have any specific intention, clear intention on ranking for those keywords. So if you look at the domain authority of the sites ranking for spinal decompression Phoenix, you'll see that example. My site has a page authority of 1, I believe, domain authority of 9, and it outranks domain authority 30 and 40 sites. So that's because the keywords I picked I set the whole site up around those. And so, I may have time to get into it and show you more about it, but in a nutshell, that's kind of what it is. As far as pricing it out, I talked about pricing models today in Facebook. There's kind of 4 ways that I price leads. One of them is going to be based on cost per click and making my prices competitive with that. Another is going to be based on other competitors in my market who may be offering leads. I can compete with them on that basis. Another one's based on the value of the customer that I can generate for them. That's going to also take into account the conversion rate and the sales closing rate. And then the 4th one that I look at sometimes is just time and materials plus my margin. So in construction, the best jobs to get into are typically ones that are just time and materials, because those are more custom jobs. And I've kind of applied that to online marketing to a degree. There's a situation where I really don't know what I'm getting into, and I can create trust and kind of a rapport with a customer. You can do a job based on kind of time and materials, which means if I've got to acquire $3,000 or $4,000 worth of PBN sites and content and that type of thing, and then I've got 10 hours involved at $150 an hour for my time, I look at that, I factor in the profit potential, or essentially my margin that I want to earn on each of these projects, and I price myself that way. The only time I really do that is if it's just a full-on custom kind of thing. I usually try to give people a better price than that coming out of the gate, but that's kind of a default. What that lets you do is make sure you don't lose money on any project. I always run a time and materials analysis on my projects just to make sure that I'm going to have enough profit to make the project worth doing. As far as pricing goes, it's more my tool as opposed to a sales tool. The first 3 models are usually what I use for setting up a client price. I run the 4th ones usually just to make sure that I'm doing well on the job and all that kind of thing. All right, oops, didn't hit the enter key, so glad to find a webinar of yours not in the middle of the night here. All right, thank you for the valuable content I've got from your webinar replays. Been able to stop them and take notes. Can't do that live. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, for those of you who are may or may not know, all the office hours and live sessions that we do are recorded typically and are available usually within a day or 2 in the membership area. So all of my past office hours, all of Greg's past office hours, all of Mike's acceleration webinars are available in the membership area and in the extra coaching section. So yeah, if you guys are one of the things, we've got so much content in OMG that the last thing we want people to believe is they have to to learn or even know everything before they go out there and take action and make things happen. But at the same time, I know from experience that sometimes we just want to learn more, and we want to, feel like we're kind of involved in a conversation that gets our mind in the right place. And so those office hours, I find, are a great way to kind of do that. If you can find, I guess, topics or sessions that focus around kind of what you're doing. Sometimes I'll use those videos, the training videos and the content videos from Greg or Mike or whoever, to get me kind of in the right mindset. So even though I'm not sitting down, like I got to learn this before I do it, sometimes I use the video replays to give my brain kind of a community to feel like it's interacting with for a while. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Graham. Thanks for saying that. And absolutely, oh yeah, Rare Tonga is cool. Yeah, there's a cool little bar there that, yeah, it's like right on the water, crystal clear, nice and warm. I will definitely be going back. So, oh, where are we here? We're 4:52, so we're about an hour, give or take, in. I get to go meet the teacher of my fourth grader tonight. So we'll probably try to wrap up about 15 minutes early. So we got maybe 20, 30 minutes left. So plenty of time, but try to get your questions in the chat box if you've got them. If you don't, we'll continue along kind of how we're going now, and may start I don't know, plugging in. I think it was Brian's question earlier about doing some kind of over-the-shoulder keyword research, and I'll kind of show you what I do if I'm going into a market. Actually, I don't see any questions right now, so I'm going to do that real quick. So I got some weird plugin that redirects me here. Let me go ahead and log out. Oh crap! I can't log out because I'm. Yeah, I'll just stay signed in, but I'll do a global search results. I'll do something that I'm not involved with. So we'll just continue on with plumbing. We'll look at Minneapolis. Since I am signed in, I'll just redo that. So we've got the 7-pack that comes up here. We'll go down and look at, like here we got a PA31, DA18, which outranks a Yelp. You see here, so they've got a main authority of 94. Main authority on the #1 spot's only 18, but they are more specific in some fashion to the keyword we typed in than Yelp is, which is a big authority site. Yelp comes in #1 and 2. Norplom is, their Yelp listing is here, their regular website is here. I have a feeling they are spending some money on SEO because they are the #1 result in the local 7-pack as well. And I'll show you kind of what I do with something like this. So, yeah, we got a triple B that, yeah, that's just a regular website. You can actually rank this if you find somebody's BBB website, similar to what Jimmy Kelly does with his ServPro client. We got an Angie's list page coming in. Dean's Plumbing, these are different. Okay, so what I would typically do, like we can grab this, open this in a new tab just to have a look at it. So, yeah, it's an old company. They've got, yeah, I mean, things look pretty good here. I'm going to grab the page that's ranking and just go drop it into Open Site Explorer. Now, if this is a client that, or this is a business that has an OMGer or somebody else that is utilizing a spider blocker, like Spider Spanker or something like that, you're not going to get complete data here. So one of the things I always do after you do an Open Site Explorer, look at this. You're looking at a domain authority of 18. It's not very high. If this domain authority was very high, but I was only seeing a few links down here, I would know that most likely they've got something blocking the links coming to the site. So we're looking at one domain authority of 18. Yeah, this has got more links going to it. So there's something that's being blocked. There's some links going to this page that we're not seeing here, because what it's trying to tell us within Open Site Explorer is that we've got one naked link coming from well, we can have a look here. I'll just expose what's going on. Sorry if this is your client. So looking here, we got a page authority of 26. 12 links coming in this. What they've got going on is they're sending links to a subdomain that's linking over to their main domain. So they've got a link here from the scribe subdomain pointing over at their main domain, and that's where they're getting a lot of their specific linking coming onto the page here. That's why they've got an 18 domain authority where it only looks like they have one root domain coming in. They've got some other links going here that are blocked for some reason. So what I do is just kind of go through that, and I try to reverse engineer what's ranking and why it's ranking, and then that helps me determine what I would need to do within this market to rank. So this is plumbing Minneapolis. If I wanted to become more specific, I have shared this a couple times. One of the keywords I like is it's a plumbing keyword, but it is high priced and it is heavily rebated by utility companies. So you come in here, these are going to be typically, this is Home Advisor. This is going to have abysmal SEO from what I've seen. The page authority 1 to TA17. What I try to do, this is an expansion on doing keyword research, is find buyer keywords in a high-priced product with low competition. And that's usually what I put in place for either branded or EMDs or ranking inner pages. So that's part of the strategy that I go after for generating leads. What it does is it ranks more quickly, it ranks more easily, which means I have to put less into it, and it usually starts the phone ringing more quickly as well, which keeps the client happier, I've found. All right. Yeah, so that was kind of getting into that, Ryan. I think you had a part 2 to that question. Let me see what it was. Oh, yeah, and then the pricing it out, I kind of covered that before. But, yeah, that's usually what I do, is just start doing research. When I find some things I like, I make note of them in a notebook. I usually start there. I'm also kind of working on some ways to design your sites a little better with these local lead gen sites, because you can build. I talked about it in the 60-day day job killer deal. What I use is kind of like nested, like the whole Russian dolls. One fits inside of another. And what I'll typically do is build out several different websites that are targeting the same keywords, because I found that especially with local services, the conversion to call rate with an actual website is going to generally be higher than it would be with trying to generate a lead directly off a video or some other type of mechanism. So a BBB listing might be great, but there are people who actually have businesses and know that the BBB is just a paid advertising company. They've somehow figured out a way to collect money to rank rank companies based on criteria that they set or they come up with. And so there are people who don't use Yelp, who don't use the Google Maps listings, who don't use BBB or things of that nature, because inherently I believe, because inherently they think that those platforms are more manipulatable than just the Google web, just a web page, just a website. And so I generally generate a lot more leads off of regular websites than I do off of those Web 2 platforms. Doesn't mean I don't use the Web 2 platforms. I use them, I try to generate leads, but I also generate traffic and rankings back to my main website. But I do not rely solely upon videos or LinkedIn profiles or anything like that. They just don't. I haven't figured out the best way to use them that would exceed the results that I've been seeing with websites. Put it that way. All right, what we got here? Ken, where can I learn about domain authority stacking method that you mentioned earlier? Like I said, Ken, I hate even mentioning it because it is. I don't want anybody to feel like, you're in here and you need something else. But it's a strategy that Jimmy Kelly and Sue Bell and Russell Wright have that is part of Network Empire. So I'm not sure where the best link to find that would be. JimmyKelly.org, I know, is Jimmy's website that links back over to Network Empire. I'm not going to try to drive. I'm an affiliate for them. I do generate money that way, but that's not what this is about. The domain authority stuff is, I'm pretty sure the course is just called Domain Authority Stacking. It's I can't remember what the retail price is. If you're a member there, you get a discount on the price too. But like I said, we really don't like to promote or certainly make anybody that's in OMG feel like they need to go elsewhere to get the information that lets you be successful. It's really more of a strategy and a specific application of really kind of what we learn and use and make use of with our PBNs. So. All right, question from Graham. Would you see more links with HREFs in this case? Yeah, Graham. HREFs typically will show more links and will show them more quickly than Open Site Explorer does. In my experience, it can be like even like a factor of 3 or 4, depending on the types of links that you're getting. Open Site Explorer tends to return the highest value links, but doesn't necessarily return the biggest list of links. HREFs tends to do that better. Majestic SEO is also a company that I use sometimes for not keyword research, but expired domain and or backlink research. it has a couple features called trust flow and citation flow that let me visualize the quality of the backlinks coming into a site pretty well. Majestic SEO also has a different bot that goes out and looks at links, so it will have a third set of backlinks. By no means am I trying to say you need all three of those backlink checkers to get a clear picture of what's going on with the backlinks of your competitors, but all three do return results that seem to be valid. And from time to time, I use them all. Again, one of the reasons I do is because I like to have a firm, grasp of options out there, so that depending on, who we have in our group that is using Majestic or Hrefs instead of microsite masters, I can, talk to them about that, having some experience with it. But yeah, each of those aggregators, link aggregators is what I call those, OpenSite Explorer, Hrefs, and Majestic SEO, will have a different database that has the backlinks and anchor text and all that kind of thing in it. More is not always better. OpenSite Explorer gives a pretty clear picture based on high value links and not as many of them, so sometimes it's a little easier to wade through their data than it would be to look at Majestic or Hrefs. But yeah, it's a good point. Each of those services will return different results. But I still look at each of those data sets that get returned the same way. So I look to see what the domain authority and page authority of links are. I look to see how contextual and how themed out the site where the link is coming from is. And then I look at the anchor text, of course. All right, Graham, I do have all three. Just curious about the home meeting site that you looked at a couple minutes ago with only one link for DA of 18. Oh yeah, it's a great reference there. Let's go back in there and we'll pull it up and see what those show, just to give people who have not potentially. I think I did Plumbing Minneapolis. So we'll go get this Norplum site. And it redirects to the home page. Let's strip that out and see. That was the one thing I should have done to make sure. They could have had a redirect on their home page. Still would have shown in their domain. But yeah, so to this page, not that redirect to the home page, they've got 10. Let's see about grouping this and seeing what they've got going on. So they've got an Angie's List link, which one of the things you can do is go grab this. It's going to have a 90, Angie's List is I think 90 domain authority, but it might also have page authority. No, I could just look. They're trying to remember. So the page authority of this Angie's List page, 45, domain authority 90. And they've got a no follow from Mojo Pages, 78 and 37. Nice generic link anchor text there. That is branded domain. This is branded. There's no anchor text, probably an image. That's a 301 redirect. So they've got a redirect coming off of their root. We can go look at their root and see what they've got going on there. We'll do that in a second. ESP Metro, plumbers, that's probably just kind of some kind of ad link or something. We're going to go look at this though, because these aren't bad links, but they're not super powerful. They would power an 18 domain authority. But what I'm interested in is this one. So I want to grab it and look at it to see what's going on here. So, whoops. I want to click here to analyze them. Yeah, so that's nothing. They just have it in place because if they've got WordPress as a content management system, CMS, it will automatically put a 301 on the non-www version if you install it on this. www is a subdomain. If people don't know, it's not the root. The root doesn't have anything. It would just be that. So if you install here, you're actually installing on a subdomain, and WordPress will put a 301 on the root to get all the traffic over to this main thing. And then from there, they also have a 301 on this that goes to that home HTML. So they've got a couple things going on, but nothing crazy. They've got a couple good links here from Mojo Pages and Angie's List. It looks like they've probably done something with this one. I don't know Mojo Pages that well. But with this, they've done something probably to supplement their page authority there. Since they were in the 7-pack, they have probably done some really nice things with getting citations out there, which are your name, address, phone number. And when you've got a local website, meaning your regular website that you own and control, and then you've also got a local business in the maps listing or places listing in that 7-pack, those things work in consort, and Google really likes to see local businesses that are doing good stuff with SEO that have a places listing as well as having a regular website. Doesn't mean you need it. It just means that it adds some extra magic to the SEO world. So yeah, that was a really good point on that. It was Graham brought that up. Yeah. So when you're doing research, just really look at what's going on and look and see where those links are coming from that do get picked up. If they've got 301 redirects, you need to go drop that source in Open Site Explorer as well, because it can be used potentially as a redirect for a lot of links and a lot of link power going over to the page that you're trying to rank or get moved up in the SERPs or get the power higher on. So good point. And on that note, about 5:15, like I said, I'm going to try to wrap up a little bit early here so I can get my myself over to the school to meet with the kiddo's teacher. So I'm going to give it a few minutes here. And see if anybody else has got anything pressing that they want to get addressed. Otherwise, yeah, we've got a kind of a busy week, I think, with OMG. Yeah, we've got the acceleration webbies from Mike. We've got coaching from Greg on Thursday, looks like. I have it written down here. So a few different things happening. All right, Brian, rock on. Thanks, man. Always appreciate in-depth answers. And I'm looking forward to Nashville. Yeah, Brian, Nashville's going to be fun, man. Last year was a blast, not only just to meet people face to face, and it's kind of like the veil is lifted a little bit with that, because online, no matter how personable you try to get, it's just different than looking somebody in the eye and shaking their hand and kind of thing. So first off, that was really cool, and then the information was just blew you away kind of thing. Stuff Jimmy shared, having Greg actually there going through everything he does. Becker was a friggin' hoot. Yeah, it's all good stuff. So I definitely am looking forward to it, and will absolutely look forward to meeting you. Dan S., absolutely, my man. Graham, brilliant answer. Fletch, thanks. Not realize the www is a subdomain. Yeah, it's kind of a little weird. I usually, for the most part nowadays, I install my sites on the www version. It does give you a little bit of a measure of protection on that root domain. If you get that root domain messed up too bad with bad links or practices that are not looked upon favorably by Google, really hard to get out of that. But even if you kind of screw up that www, you can install a different subdomain and still maintain the power of your root domain and keep that domain authority high. Like I said, that could change, but currently that's what I'm doing, and I think it's probably, best practices to install on the www, because worst case scenario, Google decides to turn their entire algorithm on its ear. We still have a clean root domain, and we can just play with another sub. So if you've got them in place on the root, don't worry about it. I've got a ton that way, but moving forward, I install most of mine on that www version. Okie dokie, everybody. Thanks again for being on. As always, thank you for all the questions, comments, and just the time out of your day. I appreciate spending it with you all. Hopefully, I've been able to help in some fashion, give you some ideas or some answers, or keep you on track with your money getting online. It is most assuredly the best way I have found to make an income and have an impact on the world. So I hope that you guys are finding the same thing. Anyway, I will look forward to seeing you all again on our next Webby, whether that is one of my coaching sessions or one of the just OMG generals that I tend to kind of man the chat box on. That's what I've been doing up to this point, but who knows what'll happen. Otherwise, my email is available in the membership area should you have a question that is more private in nature. If you need me to have a look at a certain domain that you don't want to share with the group or something, totally acceptable. We don't try to really promote that or go after it too much just because it could take a lot of time. But if there are specific questions, feel free to reach out to me either on Facebook private messages or through email. And then also I am part of the group, and I try to contribute there as often as possible. So if you've got a question, you can tag me in it. That will get my attention typically, and I can respond to it publicly, which is really what we try to do, just because if you've got a question, more often than not somebody else has it or will encounter it soon. So that kind of gives us a resource to work off of. Also kind of tends to build a community, which is always a good thing. And yeah, other than that, hopefully everybody's doing good. Graham saying, if I can't record at Nashville, can you take notes? My memory's aged. I was furiously scribbling and still have the 3-ring binder that we got when we got to OMG, and I was glad I did, because it's like drinking through a fire hose on some of the stuff, especially for me. Last year, I was new to online marketing at all, and just the technical language and I don't know, different types of terminology and applications of that terminology. It took me a while to get caught up, but yeah, most of it's written down enough that you can keep notes of your thoughts and make sense of it all later. Graham. Ken, thank you. Chuck, thanks. Cotton, great to have you on, my man. A privilege for sure. So Adrian, glad you're on as well. All right, we're going to wrap up on that note. And again, I'll see you all soon in the group. And yeah, take care. Best wishes. God bless.